Hello there, Josh here. Hopefully you can see me, hear me. As always, this video is something a bit different, possibly. I thought for this week's Tracker Tuesday post, I'd record a video and try recording, getting the replays of a few races up on the screen as I kind of skip through them and talk about what I spotted or the kind of thing that's caught my eye. To recap, the Tracker Tuesday in terms of focus on horses is obviously with my chase eyes on and handicap chase eyes down the line. Generally trying to find those horses who may have had an excuse or whose run can be marked up or who may be better for a change in conditions on starts in the future, and generally a profile which suggests there's more to come one day. I don't necessarily want to be focusing on exposed horses that are dropping down the handicap or whatever. I want to be finding those that will climb the ranks. This doesn't necessarily mean I'm finding horses that are going to perform on the next start or their next three even, but at some point they're giving the impression they may do a hell of a lot better over fences. And I add the notes to my tracker into Horse Race Base and various other things as a reminder for myself when eventually they may pop up in a race that I'm looking at. As in theory, pulling together all those pieces of the jigsaw will make me and us more profitable in the long term. That's the aim anyway. So with that said, looking back over last week, as you can see in front of you, there is a race from Hereford that was on the 15th of October. The result, as you can see there, the kind of inform 11-year-old Anteros. The Welsh Paddies ran okay. Its financial outcome that I want to focus on, Rebecca Curtis's Charge. What do I want to say? Yeah, I kind of look at these before watching the race back. I kind of read the analysis within the racing post. I'm kind of looking at the age of the horse. I'm looking to see how unexposed they may be. Clicking on this, I can see that the horse has ran, decent races in hurdles on a kind of variety of ground. The racing post rating's not too bad. Some of the races, in particular this Newbury Class 4 handicap, have produced a few subsequent winners. If you hover over some of the write-ups, which you can do in Racing Post for free, I think, and yeah, you can see how they're ridden and how this horse in particular, especially Warwick and Bangor, and you can watch them back, has been outpaced and has kind of plugged on. Warwick is sharp enough. Bangor's certainly sharp enough. And you're trying to get a feel for what conditions I suppose the horse may want moving forward, or when they may be seen to their best. The other thing I'm noting here with him is Rebecca Curtis hasn't kept him over hurdles for too long. I kind of like that. Maybe he's a slow maturing horse because he's 6. Rebecca Curtis has tended to enjoy or wanted to be more patient with her younger horses. She's had a few personal problems, I think, in the last couple of years. Not that I know many details that aren't rumour. One of them, I think, was splitting up from her partner, who used to be the main bloodstock agent and kind of the main person that would source horses along with her for the yard. And she's had a kind of not start from scratch as such, but I think she bought a lot of young horses kind of last year, the year before, and has quite a few to go to war with kind of this season and next. And if I just click on her stats, having done a bit of digging, if I just look in the last year, you can see her stats overall for the last year there in chases and hurdles, mainly in non-handicaps and non-handicap hurdles, a lot of novice races. Now this would suggest Rebecca Curtis has always been focused on getting chasers for the future. So the signs are promising both for this year and next, that she could have some decent some decent young horse on her hand that may progress as they go chasing. And you can see the various stats there, especially for hurdles. And if you like playing in novice hurdles, non-handicap hurdles, of course you may want to note those particular stats down and keep an eye on any of her runners in that sphere. that's as an aside. She has been profitable to follow actually all her runners yet for the last year. Um, She's 16 from 55, 28 places, sorry, in 2019, plus 30 to Betfair starting price. Much more focused. She hasn't had many runners. Kind of 2 or 3 years ago, she'd be having 300 horse runners over the course of a calendar year. That's kind of dropped to kind of the 50 to 70 range, which suggests the refocusing and the restocking of her yard. But she does know the time of day, and she's a very good trainer, in my opinion. So financial outcomes. So what do I want to say if I jump over to the Racing Post? Just clicking on the horse, you know, as an idea if they've got a future over fences, seeing if they've got any pointing form is always not a bad place to start. And you will see here that he won a couple of points before then going to the Rebecca Curtis yard. One in yielding, one in soft. You know, they're young horses, class and get them through. You don't want to put them in a box in terms of going preferences. It's maybe interesting that Curtis has kept him to kind of decent ground so far. That could be for a variety of reasons. It could be that he may actually improve when getting soft again. And you can see here at Foss Last, kind of outpaced, stayed on in heavy in a maiden, in a novice hurdle. So the jury's out in terms of going. I wouldn't be surprised if he improved necessarily for soft ground, but it'll be interesting to see where Curtis runs him. But the fact that he's a point winner would suggest his future's over fences. The fact, as I touched on, this likes of Bangor and Warwick, tied the tracks, staying on, getting outpaced in novice hurdles. And if I just flip over to Hereford and the course map within Racing Post, you'll see right-handed sharpest, generally flat, suits nippy types. Now, if this is a 3-mile chaser in the making, who's been outpaced over novice hurdles over kind of 23 furlongs at Bangor anyway, and Warwick, that would suggest that maybe the horse may want a more galloping track, and you can see how tight to a point and how many turns there are at Hereford and why it can possibly suit nippier types. There's a bit of a camber as well. It's up and down in places, although generally flat. And the next thing I want to do is to see if those things come to fruition. You can kind of watch the race back and then try and piece together all the pieces of the jigsaw. And I'm going to click play and hope that this works. I don't want the sound on. Hopefully you can still see that and this video is coming through okay as I tick around to 8 minutes. I'm not going to watch through this whole race, but I suppose you're looking at young horses, you're looking to see how they jump well, how they're ridden, or how they jump, how they're ridden. And the thing to note here as I kind of skip through is he generally travelling well. This was his first run of the year, first run in however many days, 200 was it? Or whatever. You'd think he might want the run, possibly. He was well supported, which makes you think, well, connections or someone else maybe thought he wouldn't. He was scrappy at the odd jump. He is very inexperienced under rules, obviously, so you can forgive him that inexperience at his fences. You can see there, I mean, you're using your eye, but he looks like a big horse, and he's probably still got some growing to do. Now, where do I want to flip round? So it was here. I forget how many out this is, but the race starts to develop. And you can see Adam Wedge's hands there. He's starting to move him a bit, trying to get him to kind of step forward or kind of not put in the turbos, but you can see that he's conscious that he might be getting outpaced a bit. And to my eyes, it's exactly what happens. And he's a young horse. You can understand why he doesn't want to boot him into his fences. That was a few out, but at this stage, still with a fair way to go, in fairness. You can see he's being niggled at. Maybe he's still a bit green, maybe he's still a bit babyish, and he's starting to get outpaced as the race develops. And that's still with some way to go, which kind of makes me think the track isn't ideal. Maybe he is worth a go at a Chepstow or a Foss Lass, which is more of a galloping track, or even a Cheltenham in time. And then he gets properly outpaced here. And then the other thing you're kind of looking at is what's the jockey doing with him? And it's very much an educational ride. I think he might feel him go at this point in terms of he blows up, he needs the run. And Adam Wedge just wants to kind of nurse him back. His outpace is a bit tap for toe. He does give him a slight backhander, but nothing too kind of aggressive. You can see here down to the last, these two battle it out. They pull the fairway clear, but Wedge hasn't given him a hard time. He's had a kind of gentle introduction to his first chase to a point. But I do like the way that he, he stays on. He's still a bit away ahead of the others. Obviously, although he was well beaten. So you're trying to piece all of that together to work out what he may want. Is he going to be a horse to follow? We know Curtis is good with young horses. She hasn't wasted time putting him over fences. I thought that was a run of promise. It looked like he blew up to my eyes in terms of fitness. It looked like he got outpaced at times on that, relatively sharp track. He is a previous point winner. I don't think stamina is going to be a problem. Of course, then you can look at breeding, and some of you are kind of much more on top of your breeding than I am, but you can see related to kind of point winners. And you could dig into the sire if you so wish and look at all sorts of things. So I want to add him to the tracker because I think at some point he's going to develop into a useful staying chaser. He may want softer. That's a bit of an unknown. I think he certainly indicates from that evidence that he may be worth a go at a more galloping track. Maybe over 26 furlongs or further, but he could get better with experience. And like I said, he's run his races, he's placed, he's kind of responded for pressure. Some of the races have worked out okay. I would like to think at some point there's going to be more to come. His handicap mark may be dropped from this. He won't necessarily be a world beater, but he could be a staying chaser to keep an eye on under those conditions described. Possibly a bit softer, but certainly I'd like to see him a more galloping track. But he could strip a hell of a lot fitter for this run. He'll develop with experience over time. So that's taking around the 12 minutes, but I hope you're finding that kind of thing of some interest. Next, I'm going to jump over to the to Huntington, which was on the 15th of October. This was the same day as Hereford, the 3:15. I won't do a video of this. I'll try and kind of whiz through. I think the front three might be worth following from this. Yes, it was a Paul Ferguson's Jumpers to Follow, good book, novice handicap chase, and friend of the blog. The front three were miles clear here. You're kind of looking at the fact that everything, well, nearly everything, was having his first start of the season, so obviously not being there or whatever, trying to work out fitness, bit of a challenge. But I do want to focus on a few things. Firstly, Commandant. Now, why I kind of think this race, and certainly the first three, might be worth keeping an eye on, is because to the eye they look to go a hell of a pace, and this one was settling a gallop as they turned out. If you go and watch it, as they turned out down the back, loads of them were under the pump. Maybe loads of them needed the run. But Brendan Powers getting them on the stretch for the first run for Chris Gordon, having got from Joseph O'Brien. It might take him some time to settle down into this country and into Chris Gordon's routine. But I think he'll find weaker handicap chasers than this, given how thoroughly unexposed the first was. The winner on his first chase start and handicap start for Rebel Royal, Tom Cannon riding well. Alan King, I think, is Alan King's second jockey behind Wayne Hutchinson. I'm not sure if Hutchinson's injured, but in any case, Cannon seems to be riding plenty for Alan King, which might be worth keeping an eye on. I know he's done so before, but he seems to be riding well at the moment. And Rebel Royal has absolutely hacked up. He's not going to be a price next time, but I kind of think the form may well work out because of how strongly run the race was. He jumped well, travelled well, and cruised to the lead. But Commandment, I think Chris Gordon will find easier races for him. I like the fact that he generally jumped well. He travelled on the pace we tried to make all. He might even come on for this run. Well, possibly not, as he was fairly fit from his runs in Ireland. But and the handicappers hasn't taken any chances, has he? As the English handicapper can sometimes do, although he did win off 114 in Ireland, so maybe it's not too bad. But he's lightly raced, 6-year-old. He's another one I want to keep an eye on. that was only his 7th chase run. I suspect there's a bit more to come, and keeping in mind and knowing that he's a kind of front runner and decent jumper, maybe no bad thing. Whether or not he's sharp enough for somewhere like Fontwell, who Chris Gordon can target, or Plumpton, whether or not he's nippy enough for somewhere like that, I'm not quite sure, but we will leave to the trainer to see where he puts him next. But this was a decent race. Now, definitely Oscar ran into second on her, I think it's a she, yeah, on her first start over fences. I believe I won't get up her profile in horse race in Racing Post, but you can, of course. Yes, has won a point to point. Is related to a few stayers and kind of middle distance horses, so you could be keeping in mind 6-year-old first run over fences. Will this one want further in time? We shall see. If you watch this back, and I won't do another video of that just yet. She did get outpaced a bit on the turn for home and has stayed on. Sean Bowen hasn't been aggressive with her. He has not got properly stuck in. He's kind of let her get home and have a good first experience of chasing under rules, and I have no problem with that. I don't like the idea of jockeys throwing inexperienced horses at fences, especially you have to trust them to judge how far they can push them, especially in the latter half of a chase when they're so inexperienced and they've got their future ahead of them. Again, this one's shown ability. Its maiden hurdle on soft ground, hasn't run on properly soft since. So could this be another one that wants soft to be seen to be better? Like I've said before, working out ground preferences based on novice and maiden form can be tricky because their class can just get them through. So I always like to see a bit more in handicaps, but obviously you'd lean more towards her possibly being just fine and maybe improving on soft, given the evidence of that. 16 furlongs, possibly outpaced and having to do too much too soon, hence kind of having no extra towards the finish. Newton Abbott actually up a furlong was disqualified. Have the jockey weighed in light, but it shows she has ability, knows how to win. Market Raisin, I remember watching that, seemed to get a bit outpaced there as well to my eyes. That was a Class 1 race, although a kind of summer jumping Class 1 listed handicap hurdle. Again, I kind of think is promising. She is 6. They haven't wasted their time. They could have stuck over handicap hurdles maybe, but they've gone, let's try chasing. She has bumped into one there that was clearly better handicapped on the day and handled conditions better. Maybe soft over 20 furlong with a kind of more aggressive ride, which she might get now she's getting experience. Maybe she wants further. Maybe, it'll be kind of 3 or 4 runs down the line when she steps up to even further to 3 miles, we might see more. But there's something there. Like I said, she's shown ability. She's won a point. She's had form in soft. She knows how to win. There was promise there on her first start in a race which I think could be decent enough for the class because of the pace they went. I might be proved completely wrong, and that might be nonsense, but time will tell. So those two are the ones I would take from that. Adding in a notebook horse that hacked up by 8 lengths on this last start. Don't think going to go under the radar necessarily, or be a massive price next time. So we won't get too excited about that. But I wouldn't be surprised on that evidence if he follows up. But we shall see how this form kind of plays out. The other thing I want to mention is Brendan Powell, he's another person who's had a tough time. Did he get suspended? Did he go to prison? I forget. Was it drink driving? Something or other. But just as I flip over the horse race base, handicap novice chases this year in 2019, 20 to 1 or shorter. You can see the stats there: 45 bets, 11 wins, 16 places, plus 82 to bet first starting price. I'm going to have a quick pause of this video actually while I just jump over to Gigi's and have a look at pace. Give me a second. Right, back again. Sorry, I was just jumping over to Gigi's to look at Brendan Powell and pace. Mainly because you have in his mind, actually, having watched many a chase, that he does like to be prominent if he can. And I was just seeing if the stats back that up. At the bottom here, you can see these are over the last year in time from this point backwards, so kind of to 22nd of October, October or so, 2018. Handicaps, chases. There is all of his stats at the bottom. And he plus 97 to Betfair SP. And you can see here just those that race prominently or lead. Any of you who've watched my previous videos or read the previous kind of that report I did on positioning and handicap chases, those stats won't be a shock. In terms of the winning strike rate for racing prominently or leading, or indeed the profit levels. He does like to be, well, when he is prominent and aggressive on them, he tends to clearly judge pace quite well and get them jumping and get them in the rhythm. And he might be a jockey that's going under the radar a little bit. He did have the job with Brocade Racing, is it? Native Rivers owners. With Tizard for a bit, but then lost that, it seems, and he was in the wilderness for a little while. But he seems to be kind of back and riding with confidence, as is Tom Cannon, as I said. Yes, there's that race. So let's fly on. I want to keep this under half an hour, you'll be pleased to hear. What was the other one I want to jump to? There was another race I want to jump to. Hold on. Here we go. 12:15 Carlisle. Smith's Cross. So we've got those. We've got the Rebecca Curtis horse, Financial Outcome. Those couple from Huntington, having touched on Commandment, definitely an Oscar. Having touched on Tom Cannon a bit, Brendan Powell. A look at Rebecca Curtis over the last year. So hopefully you've picked up some things from this video so far. And it's Smith's Cross, who was having his first run in 241 days. So I think if I read Adam Norman's notes after this meeting, I think he said he would come on for the run a bit, and kind of doing what I did with Financial Outcome for Rebecca Curtis. You're having a look at their profile to see what kind of conditions they may possibly enjoy in the future, and whether the lack of those conditions today may have been a reason for their performance. Well, we can look at Smith's Cross. He's inexperienced. It's his first chase. There could be more to come one day. It's on fairly decent ground. It's over 16 furlongs. First run in 241 days. He wasn't overly fancied. He wasn't unfancied as such. But we can look at Utoxeter, heavy ground. He won a National Hunt flat race on heavy, then ran well again, carrying a penalty. Went close in the novice, outpaced as a novice last year, as a 6-year-old. Again, they're kind of taking his time with him a bit. They probably have earmarked him as a chase for the future. Give him a few runs over hurdles, but don't waste much time. He's been staying on in heavy, in the slop, 19 furlongs. It's not a shock, maybe, therefore, that 16 furlongs on good to soft after a break on your first run over fences may have happened a bit sharp, even though it was it's a stiff enough track, Carlisle. And some of his races again have worked out well. They've produced winners, particularly that Chepstow novice hurdle, and you can kind of look into those races in more depth if you want. But I get the impression, especially as he ran to a 133 here at Carlisle on the Racing Post ratings, that 127 may be okay. I doubt they'll drop him for this, as we'll see in a moment, but you never know. So here's one to keep an eye on, because I think he'll be better for softer. He'll certainly strip fitter for the run. He'll do better for the experience. All that form in heavy, even though the fact they kept running him in such conditions would suggest they think he may be better on soft. He could be a slogger and a staying chaser of the future. And we know Michael Scudamore does fairly well with his chasers, and certainly they never seem to have a problem in terms of staying or him knowing when they need stepping up in trip. So I'm interested to see him stepped up in trip. Softer ground. I'm just going to find the race on Carlisle and give it a quick watch back. Hold on. Right, back. Yes, sorry, I was just flipping over to the Racing Post. So yeah, I've just got his profile up here. That was, like I said, his first chase. You can see he's another one who ran in points. 3 mile, ran well. And then he kept on strongly from last over 3 miles in January 2018. He clearly has been a slow maturing type, you would think, given he's now 7. But he could have a bright enough future, and it'll be interesting to see what kind of horse he shapes into in staying chasers. He needs to get his rating up, maybe something like the Welsh National, not necessarily this year, the year after. We shall see, who knows. But what I wanted to do is just give this a quick watch again. You'll see here Brendan Powell's riding again. Hopefully you can see this okay as I tick around the 25 minutes. What you may notice is it's the horse's first start of the season. He is a bit fresh here. He seemingly runs away with, if I get that, actually no, I won't do that. Hold on. Hopefully you can see that well enough. He does run away down the hill a bit here. He's kind of putting the jockey's arms out. Not that he's kind of desperate to restrain him. You can see there, fresh enough. So that's one thing. The other thing to note is how he jumped out to his left. Now, you can automatically assume and go, oh, it'll be better if he goes left-handed. Possibly. It can sometimes indicate that the horse is feeling something or has a niggle. I'm not sure Connections will be overly delighted with how he jumped out to the left, especially as he got tired late on. And as I just skip through the race here, remember, this is 2 miles. You'll notice on his first start, yes, he has some point day experience. He does jump rather well. And again, how Brendan Powell likes to race them prominently if he can. That's always useful to know and to keep in mind. He was straight enough at a few, but this one here as they're turning kind of down the hill before they start the climb all the way back home again. He's travelling fairly well here. When horses do need their first run of the season or might come on for it, I like to see them go well for a long, long time and maybe come back at the other runners at the end, as it would indicate that they should be spot on for their next start in particular, or the next kind of 1 or 2 starts. Again, he kept diving out to the left there. Whether or not he's feeling something, I read somewhere that they can feel something in their teeth, which can, if they've got a tooth problem, can cause them to do that, or if they've got a kissing spine or something in their joints or back or muscles. And you can see there, that was the last fence, dives out to his left. At the bottom of the hill there, he was getting outpaced a bit. And you'll see here, I mean, this is one of the stiffest climbs the line there is, I think, if not the stiffest from the bottom of the hill. That was the second last. The last, he's gone out really bad to his left, not helped by the horse on his inside, who also went out. But I like his attitude here, as he demonstrated over hurdles, possibly on ground that he may have been feeling, but he's coming back at the line here. And he's trying, and it's nice to have a horse that tries, and to know a horse that tries in response to pressure, not beaten up, not given an overly hard time. A run that indicates 2.5 miles certainly isn't going to be a problem anytime soon, and softer may be better. He's going to come on for the run, and these are decent horses ratings wise, you know, 125, 135, 127, 131, 125. So this race, they're all, it's a novices limited handicap, a lot of them having their first start over fences or very lightly raced. And, this form might work out okay, but in any case, you'd be shocked if Smith's Cross doesn't have a muddy staying handicap chase or 2, or certainly over the intermediate trip in the near future, but 3 miles in time in soft or heavy. I wouldn't want... I should think Connections will put him left-handed next time because of how he jumped like that, although they can still jump out that way, and losing ground at your fences, especially in tiring ground, is never a great thing, obviously. Yeah, there are a few observations having flicked through last week's racing and taking notes at the time to keep an eye on a few things. Another general point to mention maybe is Buster Valentine, the Jefferson yard, and I'm taking this from Adam's notes. A lot of the Ruth Jefferson horses have badly been needing the run, as indicated by Adam's paddock eye. When he's been at the races, as has Sue Smith's horses as well. So you may want to note that down for the future or not. So yes, hopefully this 29-minute video is something a bit different. With any luck, you've found some of the things I've said there of interest. As a minimum, interesting. Maybe not necessarily entertaining, but I can try. But you may have noted down something there to help with your own punting moving forward. Certainly, obviously, I'm noting down things to help with my own thought processes, thinking, winner finding, profit getting in the months ahead. So yes, I'll shut up now as I'm ticking around to 30 minutes. But hopefully, you found that of some interest and some use. And until the next time, this is Josh saying bye for now. Thanks for watching.